Welcome to today's episode, everyone. We have a really very exciting guest. I'm actually really looking forward to hearing about her journey. But for those of you just joining the webcast or the podcast for the first time, we are Nexvia AI and specialize in helping business leaders scale their revenue. So if you want to learn more about how to take your business to the next level and make it stick around, if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs and I'll reach back out to you. But today's guest is I'm going to say your whole name first, Lauren L2 Howard. I may call her Lauren sometimes. I may call her L2. We'll see what comes out of my mouth. She is the founder of LBee Health. She has built an incredible organization that, when I look at it, it seems to like it's really redefining how mental health support is delivered, especially for neurodivergent individuals who are, just seem like really underserved in traditional care models for sure. So LB Health focuses on neuro-affirming assessments, personalized support, and what I really love about Lauren's story is that it's just rooted in both passion and purpose and really creating change where it's desperately needed. So let's get into it. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So take us back a little bit. When you looked at starting LB Health, what was happening at that time that made you feel that this was the move to make?
Yeah, I think it actually started years and years before that. I was at a job for a long time that was really not good for me. It started great. It was great for several years. And then one day I woke up and I was like, oh, this is awful. And it was just kind of the changing cultures that happens in startups. And when you transition from being small and scrappy and very team
Mm,
oriented to being, I don't want to say more of a business, but I feel like that's when it starts to shift is when they start replacing these very human-centric decisions with very business-oriented decisions. That transition
yeah,
is hard.
yeah.
And it got to be very toxic and very difficult to exist in. And I didn't realize that that was what was happening until um I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase, but there's this idea of like the glass breaking. Like you don't realize something's a problem, and then as soon as
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
mentions it to you,
Mhm.
all of a sudden it's all you see. And so I was very much at a place where like, well, this is the best that it gets. There's no better out there. People have jobs they hate. It's totally fine. You're not supposed to be happy at work. We're adults. This is not a fairy tale, blah, blah, blah. And didn't even entertain the thought that anything else was possible. And then one day, just something happened, and it was like, maybe. And then it went from no, 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 no to just yes. It was yes. There was nothing I could do about it. I could not stop that train. It was happening. I left very unceremoniously, which is very much not like me. Um, and found myself laying on the couch going, what just happened? What just happened? Did I just quit my job? Um, and I had all of these, I guess, for lack of a better terms, feelings kind of pent up inside me. I wasn't sure what to do with them. And I just started writing about these experiences that I had had where I felt like I wasn't being told the truth, or I would ask a question and not get a real answer, or I had to spend a huge amount of my time managing around my management to get my job done. And really thinking that people were going to be like, well, this is uncomfortable. Why are you sharing such personal things on the internet?
Mhm.
And instead, what they said was, wait, that happened to me too. And I thought it was just me.
Right.
And I realized that, wait a minute, I stayed silent for years because I thought it was just me and nobody would understand. And if it's you and it's me and it's my literal entire inbox, because I was getting messages by the hundreds at the time,
Right.
maybe it's all of us and we're not talking about it. And so we started talking about it, and we talked about burnout and toxic work environments and how workplace trauma really is trauma. Um, and at the time, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I knew I had all these skills in healthcare and I had very successfully built
Mm.
practices, but I didn't know where that was going to lead. I mean, again, I'm not a person who ever is without a plan, and I had no plan. um, and so it really started as a conversation for several years, and I worked in, a number of consulting roles, and I started some businesses with my now business partner, and we have a bunch of practices. Um, and uh, one day there was a couple of things going on all at the same time, and I should say that despite the fact that I was very happy doing what I was doing and I knew that I loved working in telehealth, I would still lay on the couch on Saturday afternoons going, we haven't found the thing. This isn't the thing. I'm not doing the things I'm supposed to be doing. And driving myself crazy, which is like my number one skill. The second one is writing, but the first one is driving myself bonkers. And one day it just hit me, like, you successfully ran a mental health practice for 10 years. Why don't you open your own practice? And I was like, wait a minute, is that a thing I'm allowed to do? I'm just allowed to like do that? And I called my business partner, who's a physician who's licensed in all 50 states, and said, do you want to start a mental health practice with me? And he went, yeah. And I was like,
Of course.
you don't have more questions than that? And he was like, no, not at all. And I was like, okay, you just kind of called me my bluff, because this is an idea 3 seconds ago, and now you're on board. Got a very similar reaction from my now chief clinical officer. And we started very heavily focused on burnout, toxic work environments, and workplace trauma. That was what we were focused on. We did groups around them, non-clinical groups. We started offering mental health treatment, thinking that we would be really serving that population. And then it became very, very clear very quickly that you could not extricate burnout from people with suspected autism spectrum disorder. The number of people who came to us after a burnout group and said, can you help me get tested? And we would say, not really. Because it's not that it doesn't exist, it's just very hard to access and it's very expensive. Right. And we tried for a bunch of patients. We worked really hard. And finally I called up, we have this incredible clinical team or advisorship team out of Rutgers. And I called them up one day and said, I called our advisor up and said, like, I have this idea. I don't know if it'll work. Is this possible? And he said, it's possible, but you're going to make a lot of people mad. And I was like, I don't think that's a problem for me.
Yeah, seems okay. Yeah.
I was like,
you're fulfilling
I'm
a need.
okay with that. I think that's all right. And so they helped us build out this amazing program, which we have iterated on multiple times, and built out what started as very focused autism testing is now really multi-spectrum testing for kind of everything under the sun. We actually, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but we actually have started integrating a few AI tools in a very, very limited way for a couple of reasons, which I never thought I would say, because that was not anything that I was interested in doing. We looked up one day and went, well, this is not the company we meant to be running, but okay, that's all right.
But it sounds like it's the company that was fulfilling a need that arose, right? I mean, you saw a need and you decided to fill the gap. That's really what so much of this type of journey is about.
Yeah. And so, it's been a journey. We're fully bootstrapped. We don't take any outside capital. And that means a lot of late nights and a lot of figuring out how to go without, and a lot of months where I'm like, how are we going to do this? One insurance company decides not to pay us, which is a thing that happens. And all of a sudden we're like, how do we get to the next thing?
Now, are you what's your role? Are you a therapist? Is that your background? Like when you said you built mental health or built a mental health practice and built many practices, what's your actual background?
I'm an administrator. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a clinician. My dad was a psychiatrist. He was an incredible psychiatrist and the world's worst business person, and should never have been allowed near a checkbook or a credit card. And it's probably what made him such a good clinician, but man. And so I think him being so bad at business made me really good at business. And so fresh out of college, I kind of looked around and was like, I went and got the job that you're supposed to get, the 9-to-5 at the big company. And I hated it and I was miserable. As soon as it wasn't like interesting and new anymore, I was like, this is terrible. I hate it. Which is definitely not a theme. And his practice was struggling, even though he'd been practicing for like 50 years at that point. And I was like, I have no idea how, but I feel like I can fix this. And he's responsible for that energy, by the way.
Nice.
He growing up with a psychiatrist is wild. But he's the one who turns you into an irreverent megalomaniac who believes you can do anything.
It sounds like a
So
terrible problem to
yeah,
have.
no, I mean, like, listen, it served me well. It served me well. Um, so anyway, so I think I was 22 years old. I was just barely out of college. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was like, I'll figure this out. And we went out and we got insurance contracts, and I figured out how to market the practice. And we went from being like a practice with a handful of patients to a practice with thousands within a handful of years. We had multiple sites. He made money for the first time in his literal entire
Oh my
career,
goodness.
which had never happened before. But all by giving people care that they could not get access to before.
Right. Yeah.
We started operating as an urgent care, which like nobody had ever heard of before.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it was our outpatient clinic, but it's what led me to telehealth. We started offering these immediate appointments for people who needed to be seen quickly. This is in like 2013, before anybody was using telehealth. And again,
Right.
people thought we were bonkers. And all of a sudden, cost to get to care in our community went down substantially because people weren't going to the emergency room anymore.
Right.
Now they were going to, now they were coming to us instead, and it was a $200 outpatient visit for the insurance instead of a $5,000 emergency room visit. And so we developed some really strong relationships based on that. And he worked until 5 weeks before he died, because that was what he wanted to do. And then he passed away 9 years ago last week. His name was Lawrence Benjamin Ehrlich. We called him LBE, which became LBee, which is how we ended up at LBee Health. So it's a long road to getting here, but I am not a clinician. I do all the work that lets clinicians do their work without having to worry about the billing and how they're going to get paid and being paid fairly and getting screwed over by their leadership and et cetera, et cetera.
What do you think is like if you were to point your finger at something, what's the hardest thing about, what has been harder than expected on this journey?
I will honestly say everything, and that's not being dramatic. I did not. We built something really cool, really special, really accessible, and for about 3 months, the end of last year to the beginning of this year, it looked like we were going to be able to make a huge dent without a lot of limitations on what services we could offer to people. And then we elected a guy who talks a lot about putting people with autism in camps and on lists and making registries and things like that. And people are really scared now. And so I expected to have to do marketing. I expected to have to work really, really hard, especially with no marketing budget, to get the word out there. I did not expect that we would be literally like fighting the institutions that govern us to be able, and having to repeat over and over that you should not be precluded from care for fear of reprisal from the federal government. Like we will find ways to protect you. I have a literal document on file with my attorney should I get arrested for being unwilling to hand over medical records. Like it's that serious. And we didn't, there was no way to anticipate that, but also like, I did not expect that to be the battle we were fighting this year. And so I think obviously that part, the knowing, and personally that's upsetting to me, knowing that there are people who know they need help and need support who are too scared to get it. That is like, that keeps me up at night. But also I think like somehow the budget is never the budget. Somehow you plan for X amount to spend this month and you look at the books and you're like, where did this other $18,000 come from? I think it is very hard to optimize an entire staff. Not that I think being remote is a problem, because we will always be remote, and it is, our staff is largely neurodivergent, so we are going to be remote because it's better for them.
Right.
And like, I don't like putting on shoes, so there's that. But but I think getting the numbers right on how much staff you actually need, especially when the number of patients is constantly fluctuating, the battles we're fighting are constantly fluctuating, the things that our patients need is always in flux. That part's harder than I expected. And I've run really large teams really successfully before, but in this environment, just being so early stage, it's a different beast. But I will say the support we've gotten is so much bigger than I anticipated. I really thought that people would think we were just a bunch of crazy people sitting in a corner screaming about changing autism care and or creating autism care, because in a lot of cases
Right.
it doesn't exist. And really, by and large, that has not been the experience. We talk to the people who have been doing this for decades, and I thought they would look at us and be like, and be unimpressed with this scrappy little startup trying to do something different. And by and large, they're like, how can we help? What can we give you? What can we give you access to? And that part is I did not anticipate, but I'm so proud of the clinical community in this world, because everybody you run into, with very limited exception, is working within the system while fighting the system. And that means that you gotta share tips and tricks and war stories so people know what's coming and how they can get around it.
What do you think, like, if you were to look into the future, 6 to 12 months, and kind of get out our magic wand a little bit, what would cause you to look back and say, we absolutely nailed this? What would have to happen to make that happen?
That's a really good question. I think doing enough good work while still paying the bills. I think, we recently started taking insurance for autism assessments. That was a long battle to figure out how to get paid for these things. And it introduces a level of stress and unpredictability. I don't know if that's a word. That
I think it is.
that I knew was there. But so, for instance, we were cash pay for several months while we were trying to work out the contracts with the insurance, which was going to be a thing. It's still, in some cases, for patients with high deductibles, cheaper to pay out of pocket.
Right.
It just is. And we priced it so that it was as accessible as humanly possible, which was really important to us. But this was something I talked about very openly. We were able to bill insurance for longer than we were. We didn't open up insurance billing as early as possible, or as early as we could have, because billing insurance means that we are delaying our receivables to, if we're lucky, 3 weeks, if we're unlucky, and in some cases this is happening right now, months and months and months and months. And I'm not going to delay payment to my clinicians. So taking insurance literally could have bankrupted us. Not that we wouldn't eventually get the money.
Right.
But the fact that it was so unpredictable as to when that was going to happen was terrifying. But we set a date that we wanted to be able to do it by, and we figured some ways to kind of stockpile funds and hold off on certain hires and do other things so that we could we could get a little bit of runway into our PC. It took some time. It was scary, but and we're still in this, we have one insurance company that owes us like $40,000 because of their error. Like, they forgot to load our providers in the system. Not that we're not credentialed, not that we're not contracted. All of that is correct. They've told us it's correct. They told us we did everything right. They sent us the approval letters. And it's been 4 months and they're just like, oh, sorry, we forgot to put those NPIs in the system. And I'm like, can you tell me when you're going to do that? And they're like, no.
Oh, goodness.
So there's like tens of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
sitting in an insurance company and I can't do anything about it. But it also increases access in a way that we never would have been able to do if we weren't taking insurance.
Right.
And so we've always taken insurance for mental health services. We only recently started doing it for assessments. And so it's things like that. Like, I knew it was going to be a challenge. I don't think at any point it popped into my brain that that the challenge was going to be that somebody forgot to enter an NPI and it was going to take them 3 months to fix it.
Yeah.
But if we could survive those things, which like people outside of healthcare they don't believe me when I tell them that these are the kinds of things that we have to do. I mean, even just telling somebody says, well, I have, Cigna insurance. And I say, okay, what Cigna insurance? And they're like, I don't know. My card says Cigna. I'm like, all right, let me see the card. And then you run it and you're like, oh, this is not that Cigna. This is the other Cigna. I have to go to another website to run this. And then you run it and it says, oh no, you have to call to get this deductible amount because there's no other way to get the deductible amount. And then you call and they're like, well, did you run this online? And I'm like, literally 4 times through 4 different systems. And they're like, oh, well, we don't really have access to that information. I need to transfer you to someone else. And and the answer is it's a $20 copay. But I had to call 6 people and go to 7 websites and set up 3 portals, even though we have all the systems set up already. So that's
you wasted way more than $20 of your time doing it.
Exactly. And so I think people just don't, when I say healthcare bureaucracy, I'm not just talking about like bigwigs in a boardroom who are making decisions and creating paperwork for us that's unnecessary. It is so fragmented and broken, even when you do everything right.
Yeah.
That if I can get through 6 months with my hair still on my head, mostly brown still, and patients getting the services that they need, I think that would be
What are you doing to, speaking of patients, what are you doing to connect with that audience to let them know that you're here? You're everywhere, right? I mean,
I have fairly large social media followings, which does help. And we connect with I naturally connect with a large swath of neurodivergent people or potentially neurodivergent people because I'm quirky and weird and very neurodivergent myself. And so some of it is just the fact that I accidentally started building this following several years ago, which has worked. But any good practice, you have to have clinician referrals to really survive. And we use really old school methods for that. We send letters, hand-signed letters with live stamps. And it's a lot of work. I have a commercial mailing permit, which I'm very proud of. And we pre-sort all of our mail, which I'm also very proud of. The people at the local business mailing unit know me very well, and they're very nice, and they are underpaid for what they're doing. And everybody I've talked to at USPS Business Mailing is a delight, and they all deserve more money. And I'm just saying that if we're cutting their funding, that's awful. But we're still a small practice and still costs money, so it saves us about 50% to do it this way, even though it's a whole lot more work. And the response
how long have you been open in practice? Like, when did you start?
About 16 months.
Okay, not that long
We've
at all. Okay.
Yeah, we've helped almost 1,600 people in that time.
Nice. It's a lot of impact in a short amount of time.
It's responsible for like most of these wrinkles. But direct mail to clinicians are the last people in the world who read their mail. And if it's a letter that looks like a letter, they will open it. And especially if it's not from like a CME company that's trying to get them to buy something. And our response on that is way higher than it's supposed to be with direct mail.
Nice.
And so it worked 15 years ago when I did it the first time. When we were, opening our urgent care, and it has worked almost exactly the same now. So, you have to have a strong referral base. People will come and go. People forget that you exist, but the clinicians whose lives you make easier, they don't forget. And so
And
so
are
yeah,
those
that's
pediatricians, psychiatrists? Like when you say clinicians, who are you mostly connecting with?
psychiatrists who don't do testing themselves. We deal only with adults,
Okay.
so we do have some outreach to pediatricians, but because pediatricians get tons of questions from parents whose
Mm.
children have engaged with treatment,
Mm-hmm.
um, who go, oh, wait a minute, my kid does all those things and I do all those things too, and maybe I should go get tested. That's actually where like 50% of our patients come from, is
Interesting.
parents who
Okay.
have
Yeah.
recently gone through the process with their children. But our referral base is primarily ARNPs or PMHMPs
Mm-hmm.
who have no resources, who are like the only psychiatric service anywhere around them, who are
Uh,
trying to serve patients. Not to say that we don't get referrals from psychiatrists, because we do, and we do get some primary care referrals. But when we target specific lists with mailings, it is almost always ARNPs, because they're, this is not to be negative towards psychiatrists by any means, but a psychiatrist is probably going to say, like, go to the front desk, they'll give you a referral to whatever care is available. Whereas the
mm-hmm.
PMHMPs we talk to, like, do the legwork. They try to find the providers, they reach out, they try to vet the treatment.
Right.
And they, like, the hours that they put in that are not compensated trying to get this kind of care for their patients is wild. And so they have been the strongest referral sources for us.
Are there other organizations out there that you feel like would be really beneficial for you to connect with, but you just, I mean, connecting with them is obviously tough, but are there, I'm just curious what kind of organizations could help you in that regard?
Yeah, I think just in general, primary care and mental health organizations, there's such a huge overlap between what we do, and we are not competitive with anybody. We need more good care in this world, not less. And
Hmm.
so we offer the full continuum of care, but most of our patients who come for assessments already have psychiatrists and therapists, or many of them do. We don't see that
Yeah.
many people who don't have outside care. And so, I think in some ways there's a hesitation, not specifically with us. I just think in general, there's a hesitation to send your patient to another mental health organization because they might not come back. And the reality is, like, we want them to come back to you. We want to work with you. We want to partner with you. We have services that you don't offer, and you might have services that we don't offer. And it's,
Hmm.
we're fully virtual. We need in person referrals. We need places to send patients so that they can get um, care that we can't deliver. There are limitations to
Right.
virtual care that we are very open about. And so
Hmm.
it's about building a community and an ecosystem that is very open to sending patients back and forth, with the understanding that you're going to share information, that everybody's going to do what's best for the patient regardless. And we've been very fortunate to find some of those relationships, but I'm sure there's thousands more out there that as a small company we just haven't even tapped into yet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be, right? I mean, we're not talking about a lack of patients. We're talking about a lack of patients that that
Yeah,
know how to get to you.
know
They're
how to
providers
navigate the
who know how.
system. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If somebody does want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to connect with you with LB Health?
LBeehealth.com. We also have you can get directly to our autism services at latedx.com,
Late DX,
which
okay.
is specifically for late diagnosed adults. And then, if you're looking on a more personal basis, I'm on LinkedIn all the time and I run my mouth there pretty regularly.
And guys, that's LB Health, right? The letters lbhealth.com. So
It's
fantastic.
L,
Oh,
like in Lima, B as in boy, E as in Edward, E as in Edward,
yeah.
lbhealth.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. This has been enlightening in both good and bad ways, I will say.
Welcome to you just described my
Yeah.
entire life, my
Yeah.
whole
No,
existence.
it's been really, really good. And I so appreciate you just being open and honest about your journey through the mental health world, but also through the business world, right? There's those two often don't mix very well, and it's a tough place to make success for your patients. So I appreciate all you do for them, and there's no doubt 16 months is nothing in this world. So you are doing the do and making it work. So I wish you all the luck, and I will absolutely be following you. And I definitely have some ideas too about, because in my own, I have a primary care organization that am a big part of. So, and we do have mental health as part of that. So I'm definitely kind of curious. I'm going to talk to our head of behavioral health and just see, because I'm sure that we do not have your expertise, of course, and how they might be able to
Happy to help
partner
in
with
any
you.
way that I can. You know where to find me.
Yeah. Well, yes, I do. Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you, and I'm sure we will be talking again.
Absolutely.
Take care. Great.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.